Welcome to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, thanks for joining us this week. So every week as you listen to the show, listen, change. Oh, right. We hear that word change and we get sick to our stomachs sometimes, especially if we haven't chosen the change that's happening in our life. So to help you on your journey of change, I have a free gift for you, which again, you just get to explore your personal communication style so that you understand what your natural superpowers are, but you also see what your blind spots are. Go to whitmanassociates.com/CSA, and that is my free gift to you. And I will put that link in the show notes so you don't have to hunt for it. But take that little quiz and get some insight. The better prepared we are, I think just the better we could show up in the world. So again, my free gift to you. Now, my motivational quote today is by Steve Maraboli. And Steve says, once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with it. Now, I've always approached, I think, my career and business and probably life with the focus of my both personal and professional growth, always at the same time. And for me, that meant learning something new every day. So I read an article every day. I learned something new. Now, the biggest lesson, believe it or not, that I've learned is that sometimes or learning something to me is a beautiful thing and it's wonderful and information is awesome as long as you take that piece of information and create an action or put an action step in place, because action is what creates a reaction in life. And that's where I think that we can turn or create change and growth in our whole orbit and with people around us. Now, today, my amazing guest, back for the second time, is David Richards. Now, David and we're going to discuss mindfulness, which sometimes might feel a little mysterious, right? And the reality is each and every one of us is in a different state of consciousness. What's most amazing today is the ability to absorb and share information, just like I described, and it's unprecedented. Now, 100 years ago, our ancestors might have spent decades looking for information that we could find literally within minutes, probably even seconds. So how much more interconnected are we capable of becoming, and how much more conscious can we be? Well, David is a life strategist, international best-selling author, an executive coach. He's been teaching yoga for 15 years and served in the Marines for 15 years as well. He helps people achieve the extraordinary. His book is out and you should buy it. Great read for the summer, Whiskey and Yoga and the Lighthouse Keeper. David, thank you so much for coming back and being on the show.
Connie, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back with you.
Yeah, you are delightful, intriguing, full of great information, and I just love your perspective on life. And just for everybody, David, listening, David and I recorded a show back it posted, I think, April 29th of 2022. If you're listening in the future, and it was episode 239. So please go back and listen to David and my discussion about mindset mastery and just becoming your best self. Okay. So let's talk today. So you sent me some questions so that we can make sure we cover a little bit different content, which is always a good thing. So what for you is absolute certainty? What does that mean?
Yeah. So I'll give you the long answer and I'll give you the short answer first. So I signed up for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi got together, I want to say 2017 or 2018, and they put on this thing called the Knowledge Broker's Blueprint. And it was this idea that we all have individual superpowers that make us unique. And it was kind of a entry point for aspiring entrepreneurs to enter into that market. And so one of the first things that Tony Robbins talks about is kind of this model for accomplishing anything. And he says, we all have this unlimited, incredible potential. And when you look at human history, people have done extraordinary things, whether it's putting a man on the moon, pyramids of Egypt, whatever you want to say. But we don't all take that potential and turn it into action. So we sometimes take a little bit of it, sometimes we take a lot, sometimes we take very little, and then we get results, and those results don't measure up to what we expect. And so we can get disappointed, and that reinforces or deconstructs our belief about something. And so this cycle repeats itself. And if we're trying to accomplish something extraordinary and we get frustrated because we're not seeing the results, if we start to doubt ourselves or question ourselves, that's where the whole thing collapses and people say, I didn't want to do this anyway. It's stupid. It's a waste of time, or I can't do it, or whatever they say.
Yeah.
So absolute certainty to me is really this idea that we all have an ultimate belief. And when we assign or align a motive to that belief to accomplish something, to serve others in the greatest way possible, we can do and accomplish extraordinary things. And so ultimate or absolute certainty to me is really this idea that we all have an ultimate belief, and it's reconciling that belief within ourselves that allows us to tap into as much of our potential as possible.
Yeah. If you believe you can't do it, you won't be able to do it, right?
Exactly.
If you believe you can do it, you can. And as you were describing that, you know what came into my mind? You know, Olympians or people who break records, right, that are in place. So they were like, oh, they're never going to beat the 1 mile, you know, whatever run. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden someone breaks it. And then immediately after that, you have 5 other people who continue to break that, whatever that new record is. It's because it's, you know, I'm doing air quotes for those listening on Apple Podcasts, but it's like, oh, it's possible. Well, I could do that then versus, right. Oh, that's the record. I'm never going to beat that. He's the fastest man alive from 50 years ago. So you again, what you think or what you believe really does translate into reality, whatever that means to whatever we're trying to accomplish, right?
That's absolutely it. And, you know, the other thing that I've really started to research kind of as I've gone on this journey. So I got into KBB. I didn't stay very long because I was still trying to figure out this stuff out. I was working on my next book. But one of the other things I've started research is through Neville Goddard and Napoleon Hill is this idea of becoming purposefully obsessed. And when you realize that your life has a purpose, a calling to it, a mission, something to do, to serve and contribute, if you're not going to get obsessed about that, how do you expect anybody else to? And so you kind of have to step into that. And it's more than I'm meant to be a corporate person for the next 30 years, you know, get some nice bonuses, get stock, get a nice 401k, and then retire and live into my sunset years doing whatever. It's this idea that I want to every day be in a constant, not a constant, but a steady state of kind of on the edge of my life. And you talked about like where change is happening right now, not where I'm projecting out, okay, how am I going to deal with this 3 weeks from now or 6 months from now, but like, how am I really growing and expanding myself today? Because ultimately you're either growing or you're shrinking. Yeah,
it's really true. And, you know, I don't know if you have aging parents, my parents are aging, and you see their decline. It's visual. You feel it. You see it every day. And it's, you know, the aging process is literally like a slow death, right? If you get to live to a ripe old age, which hopefully we all do, but remaining healthy, right? And still, I think our life can be longer if we stay relevant and exactly what you're talking about, that we embrace change, that we try new things, you know, in addition to being healthy and all of that other stuff. But I think the brain is really where it all starts. And if we're not growing and stretching our brain muscles, you're shrinking, you're shriveling up. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And I love what you said. And I don't know if it was Jim Quick or no, it was, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I believe in his book, Becoming Supernatural, he talks about your body is a history of your experiences. And if you think about that, something happens, an experience happens, you assign that meaning based on your experience. Yeah. And so it could be pleasure, it could be pain. And then because that, you take action, you develop a belief, or you evolve a belief, and then that becomes a part of your physical body, because that's how that works. Yeah. And so that's why when you did the intro, where we're consuming information, producing information on a scale that we've never
ever have. Yeah.
Never experienced before. And the body, as well as the acceleration. Are you there?
Yes. Okay. You froze. You're good. You're good.
Okay. But the way the acceleration of information and the expansion of information continues, like we're still just now learning to assess what does it mean that we have computers that can provide us solutions in minutes that it would have taken us months to come to. Like, what is that doing to human intelligence? Because now we're making a decision that would have, it's like researching information 40 or 100 years ago. Now we're making decisions that might have taken months or even a year to get to. And we're not having to do any of that work to get to it because we have these big machine boxes that are doing it. And so we're getting this information, and now we're making decisions on a scale that is accelerating kind of human intelligence. So it's a fascinating time. At the same time, you know, you look at some of our social or pop media, and there's the idea of the multiverse is coming out. And when you really start to understand quantum physics and quantum ideas, I'm reading a book now called The Quantum Revelation. And it kind of talks about you are the universe. It's just like Rumi said, you know, you're not just a drop of water in the ocean, you are the ocean in one drop of water.
That's
you
right.
are your own universe. And you
That's
can
right.
either be a part of the physical universe that you see around you, or you can be separate from it. And if you're separate from it, life is probably going to be really hard because you feel like you are not part of something.
That's right.
But if you appreciate that you're kind of one with the universe, and I know that sounds a little zen-y, but then your perspective on the world is going to change. And that kind of comes back to this idea of absolute certainty and having a direction and a vision for your life on how you can contribute to other people, because we know the secret to living is giving.
100%. I taught a class this week, 2 classes actually, with one of my clients. And we were talking, and I, at the onset, you know, they're all like, "Oh, sales, everybody hates that word." And I said, listen, here's the reality, man. You got to serve first. You got to give first.
Yep.
Because people have to understand that you're coming. For me, sales is about love, care, and respect, right? So as soon as you share first, you give first, and you let the other person know, I'm not out to get you. I'm actually here to support you and help make your life easier, whatever that means, whatever you're selling, whatever your business is, whatever your corporate career is, doesn't matter. But when you come from this place of service,
Yep.
people start to put their defenses down, and I'd say they have taken offensive posture, right? Where they're like, "Oh, what else do you need to know? Oh, how can I help you? Oh, I have an idea. Let's partner and collaborate and do this," where we're co-creating whatever is going to make us better in our orbit job, whatever's happening. So, but you have to come from a place of service.
Yep.
And as soon as, and when I said that, they looked at me and literally, it was like, "Oh," and I said, "So when your clients walk in, you can't go, 'Oh, what do you need? Let me vomit a product or service on you so that I can make a sale.'" That's the opposite of what should be happening with that conversation. It should be, "Hey, what brings you in? Can I help you? But before I can do that, right, who are you? So I could see how I could support what you're doing." So it's always coming from that give first perspective, and magic happens after that, right, David?
Yep, absolutely. Well, and what you described is this, like, it's that used car salesman experience, like the car salesman who you're like, I'm going to get taken to the cleaners and I have no way, but I need a car. It's just that queasiness of everything that comes out of their mouth is going to be subject to speculation and conjecture. And when you come from a place of service, you are forgetting about yourself in a uniquely beautiful way, and really looking to establish a connection with another human being.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you really listen, you don't just listen to respond with what you want to say, but you listen based on what you're being told by this person. That's where you form that human connection where they're, "Oh my God, this person actually cares." And when you do that, the sale becomes organic, because it's not about making my quota for the month. It's about contributing and helping someone move forward in their life.
That little smidge of a paradigm shift is all people need to do. And really, really magic starts happening, and you make more sales, you make more friends, you build your network. And now everybody, it's like this little mini ecosystem we can create where now we're referring and growing together. Like, wow, it blows your mind, but you have to be the first one to give, so people know that you're not trying to take, right? Takers and the givers. Be the giver, man, because that's really where the magic happens. And I think that's where life becomes fun, exciting, enjoyable. I want to be with David. Like today, I looked forward to our second show. I'm like, "Oh my God, we had such a great time last time. I love connecting with you." Likewise. You know, whether we ever meet each other live or not, we're creating really good content. Plus, it's filling my soul with this great conversation that, oh, by the way, hopefully thousands of people hear in the coming years, and it changes their life in some way, whatever that means to them, right? That's magic.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the idea, that when you look at this idea of like doing your own thing, you don't want to do it to make a sale. You want to do it because the thing that you've discovered about yourself, or the thing that you realize you can share and give to other people, is impactful, and you believe in it authentically and holistically. It's not like I remember, and I don't know, you remember the infomercials for the shake weight, or like there used to be a shake weight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah, the shaky thingy. Yeah.
I mean, you know why that's on at 3:00 in the morning or something, but or like the guy like the slap chop, which like the slap chop thing. But I mean, those things, I know I have a slap chop, so that speaks to the utility of that. But it's this idea that there is something valuable, and especially we are in not just the information age, but the information exchange age, where we're sharing information, and you can spend your time on social media looking for likes or looking for followers, or you can spend it searching for things that are going to help you grow and contribute to others in a more meaningful way. And this is in some ways such a spectacular time to be alive. It's just a call to action to find the uniqueness in each of us and express that to the world in a way that contributes to it.
Absolutely right. The ship's taught, I think it was Roosevelt or Kennedy, I don't remember, it was one of the great presidents, but it was, as the tide rises, the ships do too. So we can serve each other, right? And naturally, organically through this, again, coming from a place of service. What's the process? What do you think the process is for accomplishing anything? We could give some tips here maybe on, so how can people really take this information age, this exchange of energy and info, and really create a process so that they can accomplish anything?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is you need to have a direction, a sense of where you want to go. And for me, the easiest way to do that was come up with a life purpose. And so I asked myself, 4.5 years ago, what is my purpose in life? Why am I on this planet? And you ask yourself a question like that, you will get an answer. And you may, like any statue or anything that's being created or crafted, you may refine it over months and over years even. But getting to that place helps you get clarity in your life. And it's not about a specific job. It's not about, my purpose in life is not to accumulate material items. It's grander than that. It's to liberate people's souls, to liberate people's thinking. And when you get to that place, say, well, where do I want to take my life, or how do I want to contribute? And you start to define that. The next thing you need to come up with is a motive. Why do I want to do this? Who is this really serving? Because it's really serving me and not other people. That's a motive that I would question, right? Because it should serve me because I'm serving other people. And what I mean by that is, if I go and have a discussion with someone or appear on a podcast and I am not receptive to learning from my hosts, then that's not a great environment. I want to make sure that I'm learning too. So we find a motive that's going to serve as many people as possible. So that's really the first piece. Then it comes to potential. And if we have a motive that is really fulfilling in serving other people, and therefore serving us as well, the odds are we're going to tap into more of our potential. And when we tap into more of our potential, the action we take is going to get us closer to our goal. It doesn't mean we're going to get there right away, but you take a big swing and maybe the ball doesn't leave the park, but you get close enough and you're like, okay, what do I need to do differently? And you're like, I got closer to my results, but I still need to tweak things. But when you do that, it's the cycle. So potential, action, you get the results, you assess the results. Did I get closer? Did I not get closer? From there, it comes back to this certainty and belief. And if you believe something, if you really believe something, then you don't question it. And that's really probably the better definition of absolute certainty, is something that I believe without question. Because if I question, if I doubt, and I start having second guessing myself, I'm going to tap into less of my potential, because now I'm starting to say, well, am I going the right direction? What's happening? I'm going to take less action. My results aren't going to be what I expect. And now I'm starting to kind of crater this process that that I want to accomplish something. And that's the people who say they've tried everything and they've only tried 3 things to get to their goal or to get to their outcome. And you will either find a way to get something accomplished, or you'll find the excuse on why you didn't do it. And that's it.
Right. You do it or don't do it. It's a
Yeah,
choice either way,
it
whichever way you
is.
go.
It
Where
is.
does doubt come in? Because as you were describing that, I remember I was asked to be part of an anthology during COVID, and the premise was Bright Spot, right? That was the name of the book. But all the authors, our chapter had to relate to what were you in a situation of trauma, distress, whatever, and then what was your process, right? Or
Yep.
inspirational way that you came out the other end better, whole, whatever it might be. And so I remember when I met with the writing coach, I said to her, I don't think I have, like, this, seriously, David, I was like, I don't think I have a process that I go through when there's trauma. She goes, all right, just talk to me. Just talk to me out loud. She says, like, so COVID hit. She goes, what happened when COVID hit? Well, right, my income stopped. My husband lost his job. We had zero income coming in and two kids in college. Oh, like, what do you do? Well,
Yeah.
I was shifting over to digital, right? And I continue to spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So the question became, as I was chatting with her, right? The question became, do we keep that 10 or 20 grand in the bank for a couple of months worth of bills, or do I spend it because on the back end it might translate into more business, right? And
Yep.
remember, when COVID first hit, it was a big unknown. How long is it going to take?
Oh
People were
yeah.
dying. What is the economic impact? What is my business impact? Am I going to go out of business? Do we need to sell the house? So you understand what I'm saying? Multiple questions. Well, at the end of that 15-minute conversation, she goes, oh, here's your process. And she went through this 6 or 7 steps. And I said, oh, yeah, that is what I do. She goes, have you done that through your life? I went, yeah, that's kind of how I approach when something bad happens. I go, who would have thunk it? But because I came in, I don't think I have anything to share. So that self-doubt creeps in for all of us. And then, and one other thing I want to comment on, that's why I think it's important for all of us to have a coach, because in that she was the writing coach, right, on that specific task. But had I not trusted the person who invited me to be part of the book, I would be like, I got nothing to say. What are you, crazy? When I spoke to the coach, right, that's the coach's job, is to pull things and say, but wait, you just said this. This is actually what you're talking about. I didn't see it because you're too close to it and I doubted
Sure.
myself. You
Yeah.
as a coach, you probably see this all the time, but everybody really should have a coach or some platform where they can go as a resource so they can get their questions asked. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, I do. So there's two answers really in terms of where doubt comes from. The first one is from limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are just a detour you have set up for yourself based on an experience you've had. And you say, I can't do this, or this isn't possible, or whatever the case may be. And because you have this automatic detour, you don't necessarily question it until it sort of comes to light and you either smash through the detour and have a breakthrough, or something happens and you get so upset that you're like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. But otherwise, it's this idea that, okay, because I used to, when I was a kid, I was allergic to cats. And so anytime I saw a cat, I would sort of automatically, instinctively say, okay, this cat's going to make me sneeze. And then finally, like 6 years ago, I met a cat that didn't make me sneeze. And I was like, oh, I love you. And that's great. Fantastic. But it's this idea that we precondition ourselves. And that's kind of what a limiting belief is.
Yeah.
Oh, this is about to happen. This is how I respond to it because that's how I've always responded. And so when we are trying to accomplish something significant and we hit an obstacle, if it's something that we're familiar with, it could trigger a limiting belief. Oh, here we go again. I always do this and I always fail. And then the negative self-talk starts to play in.
Sure.
But the other piece is when we start to question something that we thought was certain, and that's when we start to get in our own heads. And especially if we're trying to really accomplish something grand, then it's okay, what service am I providing to myself now? Because if I'm second guessing myself, I know that's a recipe for me to tap into less potential, take less action, get poor results.
Yeah.
And this is a cycle. So the antidote for doubt really is taking action, like do something right, do something wrong, but do something, and kind of keep the momentum going. And even if you're not necessarily going true north for where you want to get to, as long as you have that momentum, your mind's occupied with, okay, what's next? How do I get there? When you're able to tie that back to the goal, then you're like, all right, well, I need to make this shift to really make a positive transition and transformation.
And that's so well said. I think movement, even if it's a lateral movement, but it puts you in front of a different perspective, a different set of people, a different circumstance, a different county, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Something's still changing because you took a step. So even I know we think, well, it's lateral, I'm not going to do that. And like I'm trying to tell my kids, sometimes when you want to go for another job, you know the opportunity is so great, but you have to take maybe a little bit of a cut in pay. But the opportunity long term is going to be so much more beneficial to you.
Yeah.
Take the step back. Like, figure it out, take that little step back, because your trajectory then changes versus where you are right here, right now. But movement, I think people are hesitant because we go, what if it's the wrong move? Well, is it ever really a wrong move? Because just because you take a wrong step, all right, take another step a different way. You're never really, unless you put, your feet into cement, there's always movement available to you, right?
Absolutely. Well, and the other area it seems like a lot of people get caught up on is it's the crowd or herd mentality. And it's, I don't want to I don't want to deviate too far from my friends, but in order to do something extraordinary, you have to be unreasonable. And I've seen amazing entrepreneurs who, younger certainly, who've come to the revelation that I go out with my friends and they're like, why aren't you drinking? I'm like, I don't want to drink because I'm going to go home and work on my entrepreneurial thing. And they're like, why do you always spend all your time doing that? And you realize that those are people you kind of have to cut off or manage because they are not going to help you grow. Their growth is don't hang out with us because we're going to hold you back kind of mentality. And you have to appreciate that. And the person did. And she launched her business. It was really successful. It was awesome to see. But you have to appreciate that there's this sense of safety and security when you have groupthink, because everyone's thinking the same way. Oh, I know these people are on my side. And if there's on my side, then there's got to be a side that's not on my side. But the reality is, if each of us is our own universe, then you have something that is unique inside of you that you can contribute to the world. And that's not hearsay. That's not exaggeration. You have a contribution to make. If you think that contribution is working, spending your life working for someone else, then you're going to create a life that suits that mindset. But the reality is that we all have a unique gift to share.
It's funny. With my kids, right, they're just starting their career and journey. And so me being a business owner, I think is good for them. Like my older son's like, I really think I want to open my own business, and they don't know what that is yet. Yep. But they're young, right? They're in their 20s. He says, but I really think I want to create something that can serve, right? And my little guy is like, he's younger, right? So he's like, you know what? I want to work for someone. And I keep telling him there's nothing wrong with either perspective, but you have to do what makes you happy, what fills you up, right? Which creates the life that you desire, whatever that is. You don't have to do it my way and the way my husband does it, but you have to figure it out. The other thing too, you said about, cutting people off, and you look at, and we're not going to get political, but again, another thing that we do in my household anyway is, politics. If you surround yourself with people who have the exact same opinion about politics or whatever, you're insulating yourself from really seeing the truth, right? Because there's two sides to the coin. So, during the election, like we were reading and researching and checking every platform, because here's the thing, you have your opinion, right? The far left and the far right, they have their opinion and their rhetoric and whatever. But when you start to listen to both sides, all of a sudden you do see the truth, because in their rhetoric, there is the element of truth, which is kind of in the middle of the road. But if you insulate yourself with people who live like you, look like you, sound like you, buy like you, wow, that's very insulating, that you're not really seeing a bigger, better perspective. Did that just make sense how I described that?
No, it makes a ton of sense. You could say the same thing about religion. Like I was raised Christian, but spent 3 years in Japan as a kid. So got exposed to Eastern philosophy and Eastern culture there, got out of the Marines, fell in love with yoga, got exposed to Hinduism. Certainly got exposed to Buddhism, got exposed to, I've at least gotten familiar with Judaism and Islam through my work on my next book. Yeah. But you realize it's one thing to say, well, if I'm this faith, then I can't believe those other faiths are true. That's right. Despite the fact that there are billions of people who believe in them.
That's
And
right.
at least, but you have this tunnelized vision. And until you get out and say, okay, well, what do they believe? And why do they believe what they believe? And what about these people over here? And you can't really understand the way of the world just isolating yourself to saying, well, I can only stay within the confines of my faith.
Yeah.
Because it's not like if you really believe that your guy is the one, so to speak, then there should be no danger in looking at another faith and understanding what those people believe and why they believe that person is, or that being is the one deity, or whatever the case may be. So it's really this idea that you grow by being around people who aren't like you. I mean, that's just it. And in a sense, you don't want, like, you want to grow, you want to elevate yourself by, people who are also going to challenge you.
Of course.
And I would say that's the biggest thing in what the example that we both just shared was, you really aren't necessarily going to get challenged by people who think the same way as you, whether it comes to politics, religion, etc.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm right. And then you become right versus, am I right? You know what I mean? Instead of questioning what's reality, what's not reality, what's fact, what's fiction, right? We there's a very slippery slope there. It's funny when I teach my class and I teach communication as part of sales, right? We have to communicate effectively. And I talk about the layers that as individuals that we have from, how we were raised, where we were raised, inner city versus, a farm, or where you're raised in another country and immigrated here, or male or female or different age, right? There's a different in perspective with the generation. So I talk about all the layers. And then as we do exercises through the day, I say, okay, now let's hear what David has to say. Let's hear what Connie has to say. Because remember, we all have our own filters. Doesn't mean your filter's right. It's your perspective that serves you. But let's hear what other people say, how they're perceiving the same information. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't even see that. That makes so much more sense. Or, oh, wait, I like that. And I could add it to my thought. And so when you start doing that, you start seeing them, in the classroom, at least for me, where they'll start saying, well, wait, I want to hear what Dave thinks, because, I liked what he said before. And I wonder how I can use what, so all of a sudden they start collaborating naturally because they understand that we have filters. Some of them serve us, some of them don't, or some of them are short-sighted because we don't know any better, because it's our perspective based on our filters. And and the other thing I always say too, David, is not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's your filter, right? It's your perspective. Right. But what are you missing? You have blind spots. Talk to people so we can shine lights. And then that's how we grow together. So yeah, I agree. Be careful when you insulate yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any last words or tips before we end the show?
Again, for me, so the journey I've been on has really been about defining who I am and who that person's really going to be. And I feel like for generations, the idea was you defined yourself as early on in your life as a 20-year-old man or 21-year-old woman or something like that. And that's the person you were. And you just continued on that trajectory until you retired and followed this paradigm or expected belief. And when we talked earlier about constantly learning, that is what makes life so exciting and so enriching, is to learn stuff new every single day. Yeah. Because I want to know more, and going on a journey of, I never thought I'd be working on a book for over 2 years, but that's what this current book has been. Yes. And every day is a new discovery about that. So I would say challenge yourself to grow every single day. Take a course. There's the beauty of the internet now is there's so many amazing courses that are available out there that can give you fantastic results in a really quick amount of time. You don't have to take months to learn how to improve your memory or improve your recall or improve your reading. You can do that in a matter of weeks now, because there are people who've been doing this for decades and are willing to impart this information to you in days. And so I would just implore anybody listening to constantly challenge yourself to grow, make growth a habit, and then change doesn't become something you fear. It becomes an adventure every single day.
It's so true. And, when COVID hit, my story, right? So I remember the first 24 hours, I kept saying to my husband, I think I'm going to throw up. I think I'm going to throw up. Like, I was sick because like, what am I doing? Right. That feeling lost and like my life is over. Right. And I know everybody has felt that. And then I said to him, 24 hours, just let me be sick for 24 hours. I just need to feel bad for myself. Right. Because everybody else is going through this too. Can we feel this fear together? Right. And then 24 hours later, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm done being afraid. What the hell can I control? And then what is that next step I need to take forward? Right. But so it's okay to allow yourself to commiserate with self, but then you have to pull the trigger to say, okay, enough of this, self-doubt, enough of this, woe's me, poor me, right? When the whole world was going through the same thing. So stop with the poor me, Connie, right? But having that dialogue within my own brain, and then the next day saying, all right, man, just pick up your big girl pants, figure out your next step. One little step is all you have to figure out today. And that's where you embrace change. So you're not afraid of it. You really do move forward and embrace it. Yeah, I well said, just so well said. Anything else before I share your books?
Yeah, I mean, just to encapsulate that in a nice way, and it transitions to the Lighthouse Keeper, is the idea you can't sail yesterday's storms. So there's no point in going back to them. At the same time, sailing today is intense. It's beautiful. Depending on what the day is like for you, it can be an adventure. It can be a little scary, but be present at in the moment of your life, because that's where life really is rich and fulfilling.
Yeah, and happening and fun, right?
Absolutely.
So we worry about the past and the future. What about what's happening right now in front of you, right? So yeah, be present. Guys, and summer's coming. Whiskey and Yoga is David's. I think that's your newest book, and the older book is The Lighthouse Keeper.
Other way around. Whiskey and Yoga.
Other way around.
5 years ago, and then Lighthouse Keeper just a couple years ago.
Yeah, so buy it, read it. I think that David is brilliant, and I love again that perspective, right, David? You're that Marine going yoga, like what? Yes. Marine going mindset coach, right, and life coach. So your perspective is so different, because I have never been a Marine, right? So that one perspective that you saw things that, again, that I love you for serving our country and serving us so that we do have the freedoms we have, right? I honor you for that. I didn't want your experience personally. That's just me, right? Yep. So we make those choices, but that perspective is vital, I think, in how you approach your clients and how you help them grow, because that's such a vastly different perspective, I think, than most people have, right?
It is. And I mean, I don't remember if we talked about this in the first episode, but I didn't appreciate that even growing up in the military had a tremendous influence on me, because one, I was around people who everybody wore the same outfit to work every day. I can remember being on the beach and watching military jets or helicopters fly over, and it's just another day at the beach, or watching Marines like train with tanks, and you're on your way to the grocery store, and you're like, just living on base, but also all the moves, and then transitioning that into serving in the military. Yeah, tremendously unique perspective that I appreciate is worth sharing a voiceover. So
agree, man. Amen. Amen. And I love that you're writing another book. I think that's amazing. So you found your calling again to share that wonderful content. Everyone, I think you need a little bit of David in your life. So I'm lucky he's in my orbit. He's stuck with me, David. If you didn't know that, you're stuck.
I'm lucky. Thank you, Connie.
Go to his website, which is davidrichardsauthor.com, or email him if you have questions specific, especially if you read the book and you have questions or insight. Please reach out to David. It's david.richards51, the number 51 at gmail.com. David, as always, such a pleasure chatting with you. And this topic, mindset and shifting mindset and change, it's just one of my passions. So having people like you on the show just make it so worthwhile. And I hope my listeners always feel that way as well. So thank you so much.
Connie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again. And I look forward to sometime in the future once my next book is out. Yeah, 100%. You have an open door to this show. I can tell you that right now. Thanks,
So
man.
thank you. Yeah, thank you again. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where or what point in your life or what change is being thrust upon you, or perhaps you're choosing. I really hope guests like David and myself and our stories and our tips and ideas and our perspective just helps you expand your perspective, even if it's just a little smidge, or get you thinking about something to do differently. Information is a beautiful thing. Doing something with the information is where the magic happens. And that's really where we create changes in our life. So hopefully some of the ideas and tips that we discussed today are applicable to you in your life so that you can apply it and create the action to get the reaction to create the magic in your own life. So thank you all for listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman on webtalkradio.net. I'm truly honored to have you on this journey of change with me. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have an inspired week. Do something differently and see what magic happens in your life. Thanks, everybody.